Hey, this is Devos, the creator of Algo Middle Management, and welcome back to part 2 of Module 6 Action. Wow, you have made it to the final video of this course. This is quite an impressive achievement. You are almost to the finish line. You only have this video left to complete, but as you know, my objective is not just to get you to go through the course. My objective is to help you make a breakthrough in your career and turn your life around. This will surely happen if you implement the strategies. The whole course may seem overwhelming. I bet you cannot even recall the last video. That's why I'm giving you an easy, simple, and quick success map that will help you see your implementation gaps. Take advantage on the community forum and stay in touch until you reach your career and financial goals. I really want to see you successful. Everything that works for you will inspire thousands of people around the world. I know others will love to hear about your success story. So don't be shy and share it with the community here. If you're facing challenges, I am sure there are others here, including me, who have already hit the same roadblock, and it might be easier to get support from the community than from your colleagues. Before we get started, I would like to share with you a new blog post I received today, May 15, 2014, from Harvard Business Review. And the title is How Samsung Get Innovations to Market by Thomas Weddell and Patty Miller. I was amazed to discover that some of the cutting edge, provocative, and rule breaking strategies that you have learned in this course created incredible results for Samsung. Samsung European Innovation Team was set up in London in 2010, headed by Luke Mansfield. By late 2013, the total profit contribution from their projects hit $500 million. Imagine a small, isolated team far away from the Samsung headquarters in South Korea. This is the isolated small team you'll learn about in the last module. The team deviated from the existing strategy and faced conflicts with the management, struggling for some autonomy so that they will get some room on results. The team proposed a new fridge that was rejected because it didn't fit the company's evaluation process. The team took an unusual step for Samsung, but not unusual for Adgo middle management graduates. They developed their own evaluation methodology, ignored the rejection, and convinced later senior management to use it alongside the standard one. In the last module, I mentioned that sometimes you have to break the rules and override SOPs. Sometimes it is better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Samsung's team decided to go under the radar, deliberately ignoring the corporate rules. They also built an app that solved a data transfer problem from non-Samsung devices and got ready to launch it, only to be told to drop the project as a team in Korea was working on a similar solution. Mansfield's team understood that some projects would be killed if they followed the order. So they decided to take a risk and proceed with the launch of their own app. It immediately proved to be a great success, and by the end of 2013, it had been downloaded over 1 million times. If other options are close to you, sometimes a bit of cautiously applied corporate disobedience can be the right way to go. On your road to success, make judgment calls and take risks. If you fail, you will still feel good that you at least tried. Let's get back to our action strategies. The fifth action strategy is momentum. Here we get to the fine art of execution and some of the mechanisms that ensure your success. Action plans die if they don't get enough momentum. People lose motivation because delays raise doubts in the ability to execute. The main reason for setting MIT's most important targets is to enable you to focus and gain the necessary momentum to achieve the target. There are three stages for the momentum process in the specific order of implementation. The first stage is to accelerate. Acceleration is the process of bringing a stagnant object from 0 to cruising speed as quickly as possible. Like in a 100-meter sprint, a powerful start enables you to reach your cruise speed earlier. Maintaining the speed till the finish line is what makes a winner. Acceleration requires much more power than maintaining a cruising speed. Ideally, during the acceleration phase, you and your team monomaniacally focus on one MIT. This single focus will enable you to put more power into the acceleration. In order to be able to solely focus on the MIT, you have to disable interruptions. The more you are able to defer, delegate, or ignore interruptions, the faster you will accelerate. Similar to car racing, you will accelerate faster if you drive in a straight line instead of making turns that slow you down. During the acceleration mode, you must push your team hard and instill a sense of urgency using all the tools you have learned: mission, togetherness, motivation, persuasion. The acceleration stage aims to shorten the time for reaching cruise speed. You cannot stay in this mode for too long, otherwise you and your team will be burned out. The second stage is the tipping point, or what we referred to in the last video as the threshold. From this point onward, the MIT or the project or whatever you are executing has enough momentum to reach completion. This tipping point must be defined early on as a milestone in your action plan. If you don't identify the tipping point, you will not know when and where to switch gears and move to the third phase of cruising. How can you identify the tipping point? The tipping point can be identified as the point of no return, PNR. This is when more resources or investment have to be made, or it has reached the point where reversing will incur losses. In other situations, the tipping point is simply a point where you don't need all the acceleration power because you have reached the speed which will propel you consistently toward completion. When you accelerate and step on the gas pedal, the RPM jumps to the roof because you are driving in low gear. When the car reaches cruising speed, it automatically switches to a higher gear and the RPM returns to normal. You have to do the same with your team. You don't slow the project, but you lower the RPM. The tipping point is your last chance to revise decisions, make corrections, and modify action plans before you are on the last stage, cruising toward completion. Once you reach the cruising stage, you are set to accomplish your MIT, but beware, you have entered a different kind of danger zone. Your team or you may lose steam, slow down, or get tired of following up and following through. Make more time to motivate your team members during the cruising stage. Share success stories so that your team will feel a sense of accomplishment. It will help members feel they are involved in something worthwhile. Devote a portion of each team meeting to honor any accomplishments while you continue to regularly update the action plans. When the cruising stage becomes long, especially when taking products into development, prototyping, and manufacturing, try to rotate team members or even rotate the team leader. Teams may agree to rotate the leadership role on a regular basis as a means of infusing new energy. The last step of the cruising stage is to expand the team, especially before completion or launch. Members representing additional departments may be added as a natural growth of the team's expanding work. These are the practical strategies to build momentum and keep momentum until completion: accelerating, tipping point, and cruising. The sixth action strategy is progression. After all said and done, the execution phase may create challenges that were not anticipated during the planning phase. The progression strategies aim to help you keep the pace forward regardless of the challenges. The first challenge that may hold you back is perfectionism. Perfectionism is the enemy of execution. If you, or one of your team members, is a perfectionist, you are not going to move forward because nothing is ever good enough. Perfectionists might be good artists, but eventually they won't have too many masterpieces if it takes a decade to complete just one, right? My mantra for perfectionists is ready, fire, aim. Ready, fire, aim. Instead of wasting too much time aiming only to find out that you are late and the target has moved, fire quickly, check the distance from the target, and make corrections until you hit the target. Now, this doesn't mean that you should launch dysfunctional products, but it means that you should quickly fire off a prototype, a small niche market test, or a focus group. As long as a beta version or a prototype requires minimum resources, use the ready, fire, aim strategy so that you will continue to move toward your target. The second progression strategy is to overcome roadblocks. I cannot remember any large-scale project that didn't hit roadblocks. The challenge is to identify and acknowledge that you have hit a roadblock. There is a tendency to deny and lose precious time if you're unable to acknowledge and announce, hey, we hit a roadblock. The first counterintuitive step is to centralize. Roadblocks can kill a project. I look at a roadblock like a mini crisis that requires immediate intervention. Centralizing the process means that if you are the leader, you must immediately take an active role in order to resolve the challenge. Beef up the team, bring experts, find a solution fast. The second step is to optimize the execution process. Hitting a roadblock is not a good sign. Therefore, you must remove it very quickly. The optimization process can also expose other hidden challenges that may not have been seen during the planning process. The third step is to modularize the process as much as you can. Typically, roadblocks are complex. Modularization helps to simplify complexities and supports problem solving. The biggest advantage is in the fourth step, outsource. Think of outsourcing when you hit a roadblock. It may seem complicated to bring in outside talent because of the expected learning curve, but this is also the greatest advantage. Outsiders can bring fresh insights that you or your team cannot see. So try this COMO methodology to overcome roadblocks. Centralize, optimize, modularize, and outsource. The third progression strategy is dynamic instability. This strategy has been taken from the world of aviation, where fly-by-wire technology enables engineers to design aerodynamically unstable airplanes. When a dynamically unstable airplane cruises at the same altitude, when autopilot is engaged, the ailerons still move non-stop to keep the airplane straight and at the same altitude. The same dynamic instability has to happen in your leadership. You have to be very nimble in solving problems. During the execution stage, you cannot afford to procrastinate. Your responsiveness to any changes will define the success of your execution. So use these three strategies intensely. Ready, fire, aim, overcome roadblocks, and dynamic instability. The seventh action strategy is contingency. If you believe in Murphy's Law, and even if you don't believe in Murphy's Law, you may find yourself in a situation that leads to a disastrous failure during execution. It will happen at the most unexpected time and place. You have to be ready with a contingency plan. As much as we hate to deal with contingencies and spend time and effort on contingency plans that might not be used, this is not a choice. You have to put a contingency plan on the agenda of every weekly follow-up meeting. The first contingency strategy is breaking dependencies. Potential failure points are probably the result of too many dependencies. Where dependencies exist, one part failing can bring down the whole system. You need to identify dependencies and convert them into independencies by creating backup systems, procedures, staffing plans, etc. For example, if a project depends mainly on one critical person, what will happen if that person gets seriously sick or even dies? Can you continue? Can you isolate the dependencies and create a backup plan? Call it plan B, call it plan C. The point is that you have to reduce dependencies as much as possible. It can be supply dependencies, time dependencies, you name it. You start identifying dependencies by asking what if questions about the worst case scenarios that could happen along the way. The second contingency strategy is the predictive indicator. The predictive indicator is about creating a system of signals that will help you to allocate predictable surprises. How frustrating it is to have a surprise that could have been predicted. Predictive indicators are different from business to business. However, you can predict the unpredictable by setting signals that are already in the data. Your data tells you the unread or untold story of what works, what doesn't work, and what may not work. You just have to spend time to connect the dots together and find relationships. A great story demonstrating the importance of predictive indicator is the American company Goldcorp that owns gold mines. Unfortunately, the scientists of Goldcorp couldn't find gold in one of the gold mines. The chairman, Rob McQueen, invited some freelance experts, but they also couldn't find gold. Rob eventually put the database on a public domain, inviting experts to use the data to find gold for a price of $500,000. 125 experts around the world competed for the prize, and eventually 3 accurately predicted the location of the gold. The 3 lucky winners were paid $1.5 million, but who really was the lucky winner? It was Rob McQueen, because this $1.5 million generated $3 billion worth of gold. The predictive indicators had not been found in-house. They were in the database, but nobody saw them until it was outsourced in the form of a prize competition. Predictive indicators are also used in calculating failures in airplanes based on various levels of maintenance. You don't wait for the problem to occur. You predict them and prevent them. It is a predictable prevention. So direct your team towards analyzing data, looking for the signals for predictable surprises, and if they don't find any, get some external help. The third contingency strategy is lead markers versus lag markers. A lag marker measures the ultimate goal you are trying to accomplish, such as an increase in sales or profits. However, it is always historical data, hence the term lag. Lag markers are important, but there is nothing more you can do about them when you see them. Once you see the weekly sales report, it's just last week's sales, right? You can try to do better next week, but nothing can be done about last week. Lead markers, on the other hand, are predictive. It means that they lead the accomplishment of the lag marker and you can do something about them. Lead markers narrow your focus down to the 2 or 3 things that trigger success. For example, it could be the number of subscribers to a newsletter or the number of social media engagement. The book, and later on the movie Moneyball, effectively demonstrates the concept of lead versus lag markers. The book is about the cash-poor Oakland Athletics pioneering use of lead markers while recruiting players in their attempt to compete with Major League Baseball's wealthiest clubs. The movie, starring Brad Pitt as Oakland general manager Billy Beane, explains the player evaluation process that is based on lead markers such as running, rather than on lag markers like scoring. Okay, you get a point. Dig deep into your data and start thinking in terms of lead versus lag markers. During the MIT setting, lag markers serve the scorecard, but in the execution stage, lead markers will help you to develop the best contingency plan. Identify 2 to 3 lead markers and measure them religiously. Only then you can drive to results. To summarize the contingency strategy, break dependencies, define predictive indicators, and specifically use lead markers rather than lag markers. The eighth and the last strategy of the action module, the last strategy of the outer leadership section, and the last strategy of the whole program is transition. Transition is one area that is mostly neglected because it defines the action at the finish line. By the time you reach the finish line, there is not much you can do. You win or lose, it is the end of the game. This is probably true in sports, but not true in business. Reaching the finish line is a significant milestone, a time to celebrate success or even honor failure. Whatever your situation is, the finish line is an important milestone. It is the transition. Your mindset in this transition reflects on your leadership. If you don't think through and act through the transition, you may lose a valuable window of opportunity. I would like to take you through a thought-provoking process that will help you shine where other people are usually lost. There are 3 outcomes that can occur at the finish line. A project succeeded, failed, or got stuck. Let's look at how to act in each of these different scenarios. The first scenario is winning at the finish line. In this scenario, you want to duplicate success. You don't stop and rest on your laurels, but you immediately look at how to expand and leverage on that success while your team is still hot and hot. Many opportunities have been lost at the point of completion as everybody takes a big breath and cools down instead of looking around at the changes that are happening. The point is that every successful completion opens new doors and reveals new tracks that haven't been seen before. It might be that a new technology that enables the creation of new products, the expansion of an existing product line, the elimination of redundant processes, and much more. Changes lead to more changes. You should not miss these opportunities. One typical mistake leaders often make is that they go to the next project on their to-do list without taking a moment to stop and think, how does this success affect everything I am going to do next? The reason I recommend focusing on a single MIT is because the next MIT can be defined by the result of the previous MIT rather than by an outdated project list. So don't stop at the finish line. Ask some important questions. What's next? How is this successful project going to affect what we do next? Does it enable us to do things we couldn't have done before? Does it lead to new directions? This is a very powerful formula to leverage on a successful execution that can multiply your success. The next scenario is failure. You want to fail early, fail forward, cut your losses short, and move on. The conventional thinking is to reduce the cost of failure by defining a project as a failure as soon as possible and then drop it completely. Economists call it sunk cost. The problem is that these economists lived in the 20th century. When you get to the point that the project starts falling apart and everyone is busy brainstorming, roll up your sleeves and think about how can you convert a failure into success. When a project fails, people usually think of how to survive instead of how to repair. Be the one that invests time and effort in order to turn lemons into lemonade. Failure might be your opportunity to turn things around. This is where leaders rise. Your team members are probably too engaged in the details and too wrapped up in finding a way around the failing project. Try to have an offsite retreat on the weekend. Isolate a team outside the office to get into the right mindset that will help you to convert failure into success. It may not be easy to get a budget to meet offsite at the point of failure, but get out of the office and come up with some corrective actions. If this is not moving forward, the next step is to involve external consultants or experts who previously played a similar game. If you have already engaged consultants, bring new consultants aboard so that they can enrich you with new ideas. Try to look for solutions outside of your industry. Airlines learn to shorten airplane turnaround and quicken the fueling process from Formula One teams. Hospitals learn fast check-in and improve hospitality from hotels. Learn from other industries because you don't really know where the solution will come from. The third scenario is when a project is going sideways. It is not successful, but has not completely failed yet. It's stuck. The strategy to overcome this challenge is to optimize stagnation. Switch to crisis mode the minute a project begins to show signs of stagnation. The project is not failing, but it is not progressing well or isn't progressing at all. Obviously, the first step is to follow up and follow through on the execution. What if everything looks fine, but the team doesn't achieve the expected results? You have to optimize the plan so that you will overcome the stagnation. You have one advantage that you didn't have during the planning stage. The team accumulated knowledge that can be utilized to solve the problems. The actions are not much different than the previous failure scenario. Do an offsite meeting and hire external experts from the same industry or from a different industry. Once you decide on your optimization strategy, implement it immediately so that you will gain momentum in the new direction. Utilize every innovation strategy you have learned in this course. The approach that helps the most to resolve a stagnant project is hybrid innovation and ecosystem innovation. So these are the three important transition strategies: duplicate success, convert failure, and optimize stagnation. The bottom line is that neither success nor failure or stagnation is the end of the road. Each one leads to a new direction. Pay attention to the transition phase because you will find lots of interesting and rewarding opportunities. Well, that is it. You have completed the last module, action, where we have covered the most important target, the MIT, scorecard, teamwork, accountability, momentum, progression, contingency, and transition. I really want to sincerely thank you for your trust. This is just the beginning. You have learned many things that can boost your career and improve your life. It's your turn now to put all of this into practice. You are now a thought leader with a strong foundation of purpose and a career path. Use critical thinking and assessing the various strategies. Apply them in the way that fits your personality and your organization. If you have doubts and disagreements, don't hesitate to challenge me. I actually expect you to challenge me because that is part of your leadership attributes. I hope to find your comments in the forum, and I really want to meet you personally and hear your success story. You have a free ticket to my live seminar, so make use of it and bring a friend. Don't forget to start the Success Mastery program and connect and look ahead for my next course about innovation and entrepreneurship. I wish you great success. I hope this serves you well in accelerating your career and improving your life. And until the next time we meet, every single day, believe in your purpose, conceive your highest accomplishments, achieve your highest potential, and live a meaningful, fulfilling, abundant, healthy, and love-filled life.